not want to take computer science. Hi, welcome to English class. I'm Peter Williams with you again this week on our virtual class. This time we're doing it live. So if you're watching right now throughout the lesson, feel free to submit your questions into the live chat box, and we'll try and get your answers to you at a timely manner throughout the lesson. All right, so let's go ahead and jump right into this. Today's lesson is going to be about telling a story or talking about the past tense. They go together because we're going to be entering into a very interesting part of English class where we're going to be exploring what we call primary source documents, or rather English literature, where we can look at not just examples for our lessons, but we're going to be looking at actual stories written in English literature to explore. We'll be starting off with one of the greatest authors of English literature of the last century, C.S. Lewis, starting with his famous children's book, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. But that's the next lesson. So let's go ahead and get into this. This lesson will be kind of prepping us for that, and we'll explain more on the format going forward and what we'll be doing. So you'll notice I'm not going to be translating as much into Spanish this lesson, and that's to encourage you to use your resources to translate what I say. So we recommend sites such as Google Translate will work, but we will also recommend other ones such as wordreference.com. We'll probably leave that in the description afterwards, so you can look that up. Wordreference.com will be very good for translating from English into Spanish. They'll give you a lot of good resources there for translations. All right, so talking about the past, there's going to be obviously different ways to talk about it, just like in any language, and these are what we call tenses. Let's break this down to 4 ones that we're going to talk about today. Starting with the present perfect, the past perfect, the simple past, and then also the past continuous. And you'll remember last week we talked about the present continuous, so that's going to be very similar. And then in several lessons ago we talked about I'm sorry, wait, just we talked about the present perfect before. We're going to be getting into more depth about that today. So let's go ahead and start talking about the present perfect first. So you notice, wait a minute, it's the present perfect. Shouldn't we be talking about the past? Why are we talking about the present? Well, the present perfect is a way of describing things that happened before a specific point, and that is now, right? So anything in the past up till now. That's one major way that we use this. The formula for this is subject plus helping verb plus the past participle plus the object, right? So the helping verb for the present perfect, if you remember from our previous lessons, is to have. So if you conjugate that, it's I have, you have, he has, she has, we have, they have. And so that's what you're going to be using. So let's look at some examples about that. So first of all, when no time is given, that's a time when you're going to be using the present perfect in your sentence. So here's some examples. I have never been there. So you're talking about a location that you've never been to, right? So I have never been there. And of course, in English, we sometimes will use an apostrophe to shorten 2 words that they merge together. So we have, instead of I have, you can make that quick. I've never been there, right? And of course, you'll hear this in questions. So if I'm asking you about experiences that you've had in your life, I could say, have you heard this song, right? You can say, yes, I've heard it before, right? So essentially, there's no time given. There's no specific time. I'm just saying some point in the past, up until now, right? Up until the present, this was completed. It was done, right? Up until now, right? So something that started in the past, and also it could have been something that has not stopped, that is still going on, right? So, but that's going to be different in the structure of the sentence. You'll be looking for words such as since or for. A good example of this is, we have lived here since 2010. So you'll see it's a very similar formula than to the last sentence that we had, which was the last sentence we had was, have you heard this song? And you can answer that, yes, I have heard that song, or no, I have not heard that song. You still have the subject, I or you. You still have the helping verb. Sorry, the helping verb there. Have, you have, I have, and then you have the past participle. In this last case, we had heard from the word hear. So hear in the past tense, the past participle is heard, right? You hear, you are hearing now, or you heard in the past, right? Have you heard? You have heard, etc. All right. the formula is basically the same in this case, but you'll notice we have an extra word here, an adverb since, right? So we have lived here since 2010, right? So when you put in the word since, that extra adverb, and a specific time, 2010, is still in the present perfect, but now we've indicated that we still are doing this action. In this case, it's live. We still live here, right? We have lived here since 2010. Another way you can restructure the sentence is using the word for, right? So I can say we have lived here for 10 years. Now I'm giving a time period, right? But it's in the present perfect because we still are doing this action. So those are the two major ways you can use the present perfect. When no time is given, so something that happened in the past, any point in the past up until now, that's a critical thing to understand. It happened in a point in the past up until this moment, the present. Or you can use it to talk about something that started in the past and continues on. And like I said, indicators of that will be words such as since or for. And I'm sure there's other ones that you could probably think of as well. All right. So we're going to move on to the next one, which is the past perfect. Excuse me. And the past perfect follows a very similar formula. Subject plus helping verb plus past participle plus object. But of course, the major difference is that the helping verb is in the past. It's the past participle of the helping verb. The same helping verb, to have, but now it's going to be had, right? And that conjugate is the same for everyone. I had, you had, he had, we had, etc. It's all the same. So that's the only difference. But of course, that changes the meaning slightly. So let's look at this more deeply. Something that was completed in the past before something else. So what do I mean by that? Well, it's very similar to the last major use of the present perfect, but now in the past perfect. Sorry, we have to take the mic for a second. Can you hear me there? Is that good? All right, thank you. All right, that was Brother Marcos, our technical support. He just helped me out. I hope you can all hear me well. So, continuing where we left off, the past perfect can be used to describe something that happened in the past. It was completed in the past before something else. And this is very similar to what we talked about last. If you remember, the present perfect, one way you can use this to describe something is something that happened in the past up until a specific point, and that is the present. That's why it's the present perfect. In the past perfect, you can use the same structure, the same helping verb, but this time in the past as using the past participle of the word to have, our helping verb, because you're going to be describing something that was completed in the past before a specific point in the past. All right? So let's look at an example. Excuse me. They have eaten dinner before they went, right? So they had eaten dinner before they went, or before they did something. It could be anything, right? The object is not specific. It could be anything. It's just a descriptive part of the story or whatever we're reading here. But it's they had done something before this point, and this point is in the past. That's what we're describing here. If we were saying they had eaten dinner, if we want to put this in the the present perfect, it would be they have eaten dinner. They have eaten dinner. Sorry, but the implication is before now, right? At some point before now, they have eaten dinner. When you have it as had, they had eaten dinner, there's an implication that we're talking about something that happened in the past. It's a description of the past, and it ended in the past. All right? And that leads into the next major thing, is describing something in the past with an unknown time. Right? So just like in the present perfect, you can use this to just have a sentence that has unknown time. It's an ambiguous time. You're not setting in that sentence a specific time. If you want to just shift that into it's something that's specific in the past, then but you're still in unknown time, you're going to be shifting that past participle into the past. So the present perfect and the past perfect are very similar. You're just shifting it in the concept of the mind, in the concept of the sentence, to specifically in the past. All right, so let's move on to totally different past tense. This is the simple past, and this is a very straightforward one. And the formula is subject plus past participle, or plus verb, right, in the past tense, and it's going to be plus any object you have, right? So this is very straightforward. It doesn't really need much explanation. This is any action, right, that happened in the past. Any verb, right? You're just describing what happened, right? And most verbs, most regular verbs, you're going to see that they have the conjugation when you put them in the past. So just like I used there a second ago, happening, right? In the present is the simple present would be happen. You add on the last two letters, the suffix ed. Now it's already in the past, simple past. So happened, right? Yeah, and of course there's irregular verbs as well, including to be. Most famously is very different. It's very different from pronoun to pronoun. So you have in the present tense you have I am, you are, he is, etc. In the past tense you have I was, you were, we were. So there's a bit more nuance there. It's not the same as the regular verbs where you're adding ed. So just be conscious of that as we're moving forward. Like I said, the simple past is very simple, as the name will imply. Just know that it's any action, right, that the verb is taking, any action that happened in the past. We're just describing that action. So there's no, the only implication you need is that it happened in the past and it ended in that moment, right? So let's move on to the past continuous. We talked about last week the present continuous. So again, what we're doing with this is we're taking the present continuous using very similar structure and we're moving it into the past. So in the present continuous, we looked at a formula that looked like this. Subject plus helping verb to be, the to be helping verb plus a gerund verb. If you remember, the gerund verb is any verb with the root of the verb plus a suffix, which is ing, right? So do, doing, have, having, right? When you move into the past continuous versus the present continuous, the helping verb is what's going to change. Excuse me. The helping verb now is in the past. So we looked at to be verb a second ago. So if we're going to say, I, in the present continuous, I am drinking water, right? I am drinking water. Past continuous, what's going to change is that helping verb. I was drinking water. So now the past continuous is very important, especially since we're moving into more literature and storytelling. We're going to be looking at stories. The past continuous is a very important way that in English we use to describe the past, right? The present continuous. It was raining, right? It is raining now. It was raining, right? So if I'm going to if I'm going to give the setting, right, describe the setting, I'm going to set the mood, right, of the atmosphere in the story. Excuse me. I'm going to be using the past continuous. All right. And that about wraps up our lesson. If there are any questions, we will answer them now. Seeing none, we're going to just wrap up. We left this link in the right there. You see on the screen. This is a link to a free online e-version of the book, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. It's very useful. I don't know if we can go there now. Do you think we can? Technical support? Yeah. All right. So on the screen in a second, you're going to see the website that we're talking about. And it has all the chapters of the book. It's very useful. And it has audio as well. It has two audio that you can choose from. One is normal speed and one is a slower speed. So feel free on your own time, this is part of your homework, to start reading. And next week, you can join us on Monday. It's unclear yet if we're going to be doing a live stream or not. We'll let you know. We want to share the gospel with you. We want to share the love of Christ. He is the only way to have salvation in this time of traumatic news that you're hearing all the time. Just know that Jesus is the answer. He has changed my life as he's changed so many others. And even though this is just an English class, remember the main purpose is to share that gospel message of the love and the mercy of Jesus Christ and the salvation he has for you. So with that in mind, we're going to end this live stream. Thank you so much for joining us.